If you're interested in your personal brand and dominating the social media world, well, this book review is going to be great for you because we're diving into Gary Vaynerchuk's Crushing It. And we're going to talk about the 5 best ideas that I got out of this book coming up. If you're new here, my name is Dedeyan. Welcome to my channel, the one-stop shop for peak performance, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. So who is Gary Vaynerchuk? He's a serial entrepreneur, the CEO of VaynerMedia, and an expert in marketing and branding. If you guys haven't checked out his content, he's all over social media, he's all over the web. Go check him out. I'm definitely a fan. So much so that I'm actually deciding to wear a hoodie and a beanie for this particular episode because Gary wears beanies all the time. The first best idea of the book is personal brand. Now, I love that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this, and not only talks about it, but he breaks it down and talks about the 8 essential things you need to do or have to really become a strong personal brand or develop a strong personal brand. And we're gonna dive into each one. So the first one is intent. You have to understand what is the intent, what's the goal, what's the end goal with the personal brand. Once you know what the end goal is, then you could reverse engineer it and bring it back to your activities that you need to do every single day that's going to respect that intent. Don't try to copy anybody else. Don't try to be anybody else other than yourself. Because once you're acting like somebody else, people notice it. Towards when you're yourself, that's when your real personality comes out and people could get attracted to you, your services, or whatever you're doing. So that's the second. The third is passion. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, the brand you're developing. If you're not passionate, once again, people will notice that. You have to have that passion. If not, you're not even going to be able to create your personal brand at such a high level. Number 4 is you have to be patient. Like a very famous quote, Rome wasn't built in one day. It takes time. It's a process. Understand that you are going to take the time and put in the work that you need to put in to get there, but you have to be patient with that. Number 5, speed. Now, I love that he mentions this part, the speed, because he actually talks about it a lot in his videos. When he talks about speed over here, he's talking about in the short term. Are you doing the things that you need to do every single day in a fast way? Such as, if a client replies to you, are you replying to that email right away? Such as, are you doing your tweets? Are you doing your stories on IG? You have to think about those things on a speed level. And everything else that's more long-term, like business-oriented growth long-term, that you have to be more patient about. And he says that actually a lot of people have that inverse. They want to get the fast speed on the long-term things and slow down on the things that need to get done today. So switch it up, do the speed for everything that you need to get done today. The 6th is work. Gary is known for this. He's somebody that puts in the work.
What if I told you this was the last Monday morning of your life?
How do you stay driven? I'm gonna ask you a question. How don't you stay driven?
What if I told you this was the last Monday morning of your life?
How do you stay driven? I'm gonna ask you a question. How don't you stay driven?
You have to put in the work. This is not going to happen overnight, and this is not going to happen without work. Even if you make it, you still have to put in the work. So be aware of that. If you want to have a strong personal brand, you have to put in the work. Number 7, attention. You have to figure out where are the people's attention? Where's the audience's attention? And go towards that. Listen, Gary does this all the time as well. When it comes to, imagine like TikTok, right? There's a new attention there. There's a younger audience. He goes towards that. And this is something actually that was mentioned in the book that I've previously done, which is This is Marketing by Seth Godin. You have to first see before to be seen. So I'm actually going to link up the book if you want to go check it out. So you have to understand what the people are looking at before you could actually be seen. So if you know what the people are looking at, then you could potentially get seen because you understand what they're liking and appreciating. And finally, content. You have to put out content. Good content, quality content, content that you're passionate about. So these are the 8 top things that you have to look at if you want to have a strong personal brand. If you see there's some value within the video so far, don't hesitate at all to give me a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell notification to find out when our weekly videos come out. So the word of the book that I picked was empathy. Not because I don't know this word, it's actually one of my favorite words. The reason why I picked it is because Gary V always talks about this word. So much so that he actually named one of his wine companies Empathy. So let's dive into the definition. The action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of others, either past or present, without feeling the thoughts, experiences fully communicated in an objectively explicit manner. Now that was a tongue twister. So essentially what it means is you're feeling or you're trying to feel what other people are feeling without going through the same experiences. The second best idea of the book is starting a new business. Now Gary dives into deep and he explains what you're potentially gonna feel and what's gonna happen when you start a new business. First and foremost, he explains that you have to be aware once you're starting a new business, there's no more time for leisure. He's actually a football fan, so he always says you have to punt leisure. Now you're gonna have time for your family, and that's very important, but there's no other time for nothing else. All you're gonna be doing is working and then spending the time that you need to spend, or actually having the responsibilities or looking up the responsibilities that you need to look up to. There's a quote specifically that he mentions within the book that you have to say to somebody that you think is not supporting you, or maybe you're afraid to tell them that you're gonna start a business, and this is what he should say. And actually, it was so amazing that I'm gonna read it to you guys. I'm going to do something that I should have done years ago. The only thing that was stopping me was my fear of what you would say. But I'm over that now. I don't need your blessing, but I do need your support when I fail, because I will. Not spectacularly, I hope, but definitely in the short term. In the long term though, I will win. And it would mean the world to me if I know that you have my back and hoping for my success instead of waiting for my failure. This one paragraph, when I read it, first thing that caught in my mind was, I wish I had this, and I read it to my father years ago once I started my entrepreneurial journey. This was so exact, because listen, understand that whatever you're gonna start, you are going to fail in the beginning, in the short term. But if you continue in the long term, you're gonna succeed. But it's inevitable, that fail part. So you have to tell the people, it's not about getting their blessing. All you need is them for their support, if that is somebody that's important within your life, but you don't need their blessing. Because the idea of the business was given to you. So understand, these are the things that you're gonna go through as an entrepreneur or as a businessman, especially in the beginning. The third best idea of the book is social media platforms. Now, I love that he goes so in depth in every single social media platform. He talks about what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and how to approach every single one. Now, the main thing that I got out of this is that every single social media or every single platform has a different way of interacting. And when people go on one specific one, they want to receive a particular type of content. So imagine if somebody's following you on your YouTube channel, such as you guys are, and then you go follow me on my IG, that's perfectly okay. And then you go follow me on my Twitter, that's perfectly okay as well. But people want different types of content on each one. On YouTube, it might be longer, it might be more direct, it might be more specific and in depth with the content. Towards on IG, it might be a bit more fast. And on Twitter, it's a bit more like, hey, what are your thoughts right now? So you have to understand, what is your viewer looking for on the specific platform. Even though this person follows you on all the platforms, you have to be aware of what the platform and what is the person approaching it when he goes to that mood. Furthermore, Gary Vee mentions that if you want to grow a certain platform, you want to grow your personal brand, the best way to go about it is with collaborations, which makes perfect sense. You collaborate with somebody, so then their audience sees you and your audience sees them, and it makes a better content as well. The fourth best idea of the book is curate one main content. Now, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed with all these platforms. If you're trying to grow your brand, you have to be everywhere at the same time, omnipresence, but you're trying to run your show by yourself, or even if you have a team, it could be overwhelming. The best way to go about it is structured in the way that he explains it. You have to pick what is your main content. And if your main content is YouTube or podcast or IG, whatever it is, whatever your talents lie in, you pick one, and then from that one main content, then you make several small contents. Now, like we mentioned in the previous point, you have to be aware of, once you're breaking down the content, what does the viewer want to see on IG, and what does the viewer want to see on Twitter, and what does the viewer want to see on X, Y, and Z. So be very acutely aware once you separate it. So you have your main content, you put all the energy on that, and then from there you break it down to the little small, bite-sized pieces so people can consume it a lot faster. The fifth best idea of the book is document, don't create. Now, this is my favorite idea of the book in itself. Now, if you guys follow Gary Vee, you guys know this because he mentions this all the time. When we're talking about creation instead of documenting instead of creation, if you are a creator and you're putting content out there, at a certain point, it gets a lot more difficult. There's a lot more cognitive pressure of oh my God, what's the idea? What do I want to put out? How am I going to say this? Have I already said this? There's a lot of pressure that goes into that itself. Now, if you're documenting, on the other hand, there is no pressure. It's just you're showing what you're doing, you're showing your progression, you're showing from where you're starting and where you want to go. Now, one thing I love about documenting towards is a vlog, a blog, or whatever. You're just putting your content out there and just saying where you're at, is that you're extremely authentic. You're showing them the process. So if you're somebody new in the industry, you don't have to be like, oh my God, I'm killing it. No, hey, I'm in the beginning, it's tough, this is where I'm going, but this is my goal. And then once you get there, your whole community's following you. So that's something that is very interesting, and it's something that I'm gonna start developing a lot more, getting more people to document my journey or talk about my documentation of like what's going on as a professional speaker and a peak performance coach, instead of just putting out content. And I think it's gonna help up the whole system in itself of putting content out there. So did I like this book? I definitely did. Gary V, you actually did crush it. Now, one thing I noticed within this book is that everything that I read within this, I didn't learn necessarily something new. And actually, hats off to Gary V, because everything that he mentions over here, he's mentioned on his platforms, he's mentioned on his speeches and on his videos time and time again. And honestly, I see that as a strength. You would think that, oh my God, he has secrets in his books that he mentions that he doesn't put when he speaks. No, what you're getting with this book is a well-structured way of everything he explains and ways to go get more information. So this is the actual concept in the book. So if you do want to develop your personal brand and understand the social media game, definitely pick up this book. The Amazon link will be linked up down below, so go check that out. Furthermore, I just wanted to kind of show you guys, I found this pretty cool. This is actually a signed edition Gary Vaynerchuk book, so this is pretty cool. Side note. And as well, let me ask you guys the question of the day, which is very simple. What is the best advice that you have received from Gary Vaynerchuk? So comment down below. I would love to see what the community is going to say on that end. Furthermore, there's some other videos over here that could interest you. The first one is my playlist on my book review. Over here, you have my peak performance mindset series. Over here, you have my entrepreneurship series, and you have my profile picture that you guys could click, subscribe, and join the family. I hope you guys have a blessed and grateful day.